Obviously, this video is supposed to cover more than one subject. Of course, like with most things in life, it all ties together. None of these things operate independently from any other. Let's start off with misogyny. Anytime that a man thinks that a woman should be held accountable for her actions, called misogynist, called narcissistic. It is claimed that he is blaming everything on women. But then when it's the other way around, we don't treat women that way, do we? Not usually. Now, it's one thing to blame a woman for something that's not her fault. It's another thing to hold her accountable, which we don't do in the United States. We make excuses. When a woman commits a crime, we automatically try to find a man to blame it on. It's some man's fault. That's horrible. And if that man tries to defend himself against false allegations, he's a misogynistic narcissist. There's a difference between blaming women and holding them accountable. Now, just like with the situation I was explaining about John, where if John commits a crime and you want to blame all men for it, it's not men's fault, it's John's fault. And if you go back to John, it's your fault. See, the first time he beats on you, that's his fault. He should not have beaten on you. The second time he beats on you, it is still wrong of him to beat on you, but you're the dumbass who went back. The third time he beats on you, it's also your fault. Anything past the first one is your fault for going back. That's accountability. That's what we teach men. Dude, she's cheating on you. She's already got a kid that's not yours that you are fucking raising. You left. If you go back and she cheats on you again, it's your fault. If you hadn't gone back, she wouldn't be cheating on you. You wouldn't be there to cheat on. The first time is her fault. After that, it's your fault. That's what men are taught. Matter of fact, men are actually taught that the first time is their fault too. If she cheats on you, you're just not giving her enough in the bedroom. You just don't have a big enough apple. Your banana's not bent right. You don't last long enough. You don't pound it home. That's gross. It's not okay to hold women accountable for what they do, but it is okay for women to blame men for what they do. Now, we get to see all this stuff on TikTok and YouTube, where you get to see, yes, the majority of women are blaming men for the things that women have done. And then we call men misogynistic if they defend themselves. We call them misogynistic. Why? Because they asked for you to be held accountable. When you beat the shit out of your boyfriend, now mind you, yeah, he could have beaten you piss limber. He could have beaten you to death on accident, but he fucking didn't. He took your beating. And then he took the ostracization from a lot of other people because he got beat up by a girl. You should be held accountable. You should be in prison for domestic assault. You're not going to. You don't think that you should be held accountable. It is okay for you to get angry and lash out physically violent, but it's not okay for men. When you beat on a man, people will make excuses for you. And that's horrible. And then you teach your kids this. Now, there's a lot of parents that I know that are horrible parents. They might be decent parents, sort of, but when it comes down to it, what are they teaching their kids? Leslie Snell broke the law. What she did to me was completely wrong. It's not just completely wrong, it's completely illegal. But then she wanted to justify her crimes by claiming that I threatened her kids. That's child abuse in the state of Nebraska. Now, it's not child abuse because you're beating your kids. It's child abuse because women in this state frequently. Why the fuck they drive by so goddamn slow? That just creeps me out. It looked like a sheriff's vehicle, but I don't know. It was the tail end of the vehicle I got to see right out the window there. That's not part of this video, though. Leslie Snell wasn't the only one who wanted to play on the fact that she's a parent in order to get sympathy. Robert Warnick is a registered sex offender. It says specifically on his charges that the crime was against a child. This man wanted to pretend like I would hurt his kids. I never threatened his kids. I never threatened Leslie's kids. Ever. However, either A, Leslie is lying about her kids being threatened by me, or B, her kids lied to her about being threatened by me. In the first case, Leslie's a felon. In the second case, well, her kids obviously are the perpetrators. But the fact is, on none of my court paperwork does it show any threats whatsoever. There is no evidence of any threats towards either one of these people's children. Meanwhile, the issue with Leslie Snell came about because she was protecting a corrupt sheriff in this town, as well as being friends with Robert Warnick. When I had to call to try to turn him in and had to call to check in on what they were doing because Robert Warnick was stalking me through town after assaulting me, that's the thing. I was the one assaulted. I tried to turn in my predators and I was illegally incarcerated for 7 months. I was charged with misdemeanors that did not happen, and I wasn't sent to jail. I was sent to prison. I was never allowed to even enter a plea. They held me as long as they could legally possibly do it, and they had to manipulate and twist the law in order to do that. But Robert Warnick is a child molester. What are the chances that he's going to fuck one of his own kids? Pretty goddamn good. Most of the time, 80% of all children who are molested by one or the other parent. And most of the time, it's the dad. Now, obviously, if Robert Warnick is fine with fucking somebody else's kid, what's to stop him from looking at his own child as a sexual object, like Ted Bollinger did to Natalie and Alicia? My friend Rand Ingersoll, I tell stories about her. She's out of the two women I've had sex with in my life, she's one of them. She was also abusing Amy Spencer's kids, or Amy Kingery, whatever she goes by now. She was drinking a whole hell of a lot. Her sister Nikki is the mother of several of Robert Warnick's kids. Several of them. How fucked up is that? Why doesn't it register in her head that he's a chimo? I mean, she was what, 17 when they started fucking? He's quite a bit older than her. I mean, he's at least 10 years her senior. At least 10 years. But then he wants to pretend like I might hurt his kids. Do I have a history of hurting children? No, I don't. Does he? Yes, he absolutely does. Now, these parents are horrible people. Who the hell uses their kids like that? Oh, yeah, people without a fucking conscience. I wouldn't expect Leslie Snell to know what any of this is like. She has never been alone. She's never been a man. She has always been a pretty white girl. Always. Back in high school, her and her twin sister, almost everybody had a crush on them. Most of them wanted the set, of course. You know, it's supposed to be every guy's fantasy to have a set of twins. It's kind of gross. Okay, it's really gross. But Leslie Snell, shit, she has always had, for as long as I've known her since high school, because I knew her in high school. She wasn't married to Clint Snell back then, but she's been married to him for years. She lives in a house right next door to probably one of the best friends I ever had in this town, and I can't even go see him. I haven't been able to go and see him safely without having to worry about being threatened or assaulted by Robert Warnick since the summer of 2019. So I can't go see my friends or loved ones in this town for the same reasons I couldn't go see my friends and loved ones in Colorado. Because people lied and nobody cared if it was true or not. Actually, that's not true. A lot of people know that I'm telling the truth. They do care because they don't want the truth coming out.